This is another example where we have your main function calling for another function that's called add two digits, right? And then your add two digit is then internally calling another two functions here, first digit and second digit, and simply adding the results, right, from the first digit and second digit function returns into one to produce that summations here. So the example is, let's say you have 1, 2, right, as your input, and this input goes into the add two digits, and the add two digits is then going to call its first digit to produce the very first, and then the very second is the first. This is the second, right? So this second digit function takes 12, right? This first digit also takes 12. And the output of the second digit, right, is 1. The output of the first digit, right, in this case, is 2. So when you add them all up, you get 3. So if your input is 12, right, you get 3. So 3, right, is the end result of your add two digits. So this is 1 plus 2. This is 3, right? Of course, the addition itself is part of your add two digits logic. So let's look at the specific implementation details here. So the first thing we see is in your code, you have 3 function declarations, right? Add two digits, which calls first digit and second digit, both of which are functions. And then you have main, and that's your main declarations there. So now inside your main, you're asking user, right, to enter a integer. So this integer goes into this number. This is the address of number. So this number is what user just enters, presumably 2-digit number. And then what you do is you invoke, right, add 2 digits with that number as your input. So this is the first thing you do. That you declare, right, the function which you did. And the first thing is you define, right, with the same method signature, the definition of the add 2 digits, starting with that number. And you can see that your add 2 digit consists of 2 calls, right? One calling first digit and second one calling second digit with the same number that goes in. And then you can see, for example, the first digit, right? Let's say if this first digit, so the input is 12, your first digit is going to be this, right? And the way that you do that, we explained this before, you mod by 10. That way you get 2. So this is the result of your first digit, which is 2, right? And then let's look at the second digit implementation. So the second digit implementation is a little tricky. It calls for the divisions here, number of divisions. So if you have 12 as a start, right? So if you divide by 10, remember evaluations, right, goes from left to right. So the very first thing is, right, is 2. But because the division, we're talking about division, right? Division of, so when you divide 12 by 10, you end up getting 1, right? So this is the remember there's the quotient, right? So you end up getting a quotient, which is 1, and then you mod by 10. So when you have 1 mod by 10, so what you end up with is 1, right? Because 1 divided by 10, right? This is 0, and this is 0, and this is 1. So 1 being, so modulus gives you the remainder. So this actually gives you the remainder of the input 112, right? So you add all that up. The result of your second digit is 1. The result of your first digit is 2. So if you add them all up, right? If you go back to the previous slide, you can see here the addition happens in your add 2 digits. So the result of this is 2. The result of this is 1, right? So assuming number, right, as the input is 12. So that gives you a 3. And 3 is the one that gets returned in your add 2 digit, and therefore in your main, you have the correct summation, right? So that's how we, utilize a function, right, and have this sort of design. This is what we call procedural. A function calls another function, which it calls, several more function that gets you the results.